This is episode 224 of the Rio Grande Foundation's Tipping Point, New Mexico. I'm Paul Gessing, president of the Rio Grande Foundation, New Mexico's free market think tank. You can find out more about the foundation at riograndefoundation.org. This week, I am pleased to be joined by Sammy Chioda. He is the proprietor of Sammy C's Sports Bar and Grill in Gallup, New Mexico, an area that quite frankly has been undercovered by the podcast and the Rio Grande Foundation, but in which a lot of things have happened, especially since the outbreak of the COVID-19 and some economic challenges facing that town. But Sammy C., welcome to Tipping Point, New Mexico.
Well, it's a pleasure being here, Paul. Good to see you again. And yeah, it's been challenging, but yet, we're getting through it day by day, and you have to just look at the positives every day to keep your head up.
No doubt about it. And as a restaurateur, we're going to talk to you about that. Definitely want to talk a little bit about Gallup, its economy. You ran for mayor out there. So plenty of issues and things to occupy us during the next 40 or so minutes. But as we get started, we met as a result of efforts that Rio Grande Foundation and some other organizations undertook with sympathetic folks in McKinley County to get a right to work ordinance passed. It did pass in McKinley County. Subsequently, it was made illegal by the legislature, but it was a couple years ago, and got to visit your wonderful sports bar there in Gallup. It's really a gem. And if you're a fan of any professional sports, by all means, go and check it out next time you're heading through Gallup. But how'd you get involved in the restaurant business and, especially the sports memorabilia business, because your collection of jerseys and helmets and all that kind of stuff is among the best I've ever seen, if not the best I've ever seen.
Well, we got the idea of doing something like that back in the turn of the century, and wanted to do something unique for Gallup. A lot of people come up these days, especially the tourists that come through town, and they'll come into the place and just like look at you and they say, hey, wow, why did you do this in Gallup? And my response was, why not? Gallup's entitled to have a nice place like this. Plus, I was born and raised here, and so we created a sports bar. Gallup didn't have a sports bar. We had a couple of could-be sports bars, but not a sports bar as we know sports bars, Paul. And so we started that, and over the years, and I've been in broadcasting now for 52 years, and in all the years that I did sports, which was almost 38 years of sports play-by-play in the state, we were affiliated with a lot of professional sports teams here, Lakers, Dodgers, did a lot of work with the Cowboys over the years, Raiders. We had a lot of connections. We networked with a lot of great people. And over the years, I went to a lot of sporting events outside Gallup, and really, if I knew I was going to be someplace, I was very opportunistic, and I took a chance that, so-and-so might be there and they might be able to sign something for me. And I got a lot of stuff signed, and plus over the years I've networked with a lot of people that from time to time will send me stuff from all over the country, and so we've gotten up to nearly 6,500 autographs in the place. It's just amazing. But we wanted to do something neat, something unique for Gallup, where people could come in and what better theme than Rockin sports, because it's almost like the universal language of love. It's fun to talk about. It's not political. It's sports, and although sports is becoming more political these days, but it was a good thing for us to do. Maria and I, my wife, the kids, Giovanni and Francesca, we all thought about it, prayed about it, and started this program back in 2007, and that's where we're at right now, right in the heart of downtown Gallup, Paul. And it was part of a dream, a vision of revitalizing the downtown area here in Gallup, and we feel that we created an anchor for downtown Gallup.
Yeah, and it really is worth going to. I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and you have that particular franchise amply represented among your memorabilia. And I definitely want to talk to you about football specifically because NFL season is right around the corner. Of course, a lot of college football seems to be on the chopping block. And, before we get into some of the challenges of the restaurant industry itself, you, like every other sports bar you go into, you have a lot of TVs on your walls. Uh, Given we may not be having indoor dining between now and football season, which of course is the go-to when talk about people gathering at sports bars and watching games. Frequently, I'm sure that's a big part of your business. Do you have contingency plans for how you're going to serve your fans, people who show up and watch football games, potentially outdoors? Is that something you can even accommodate?
That's a possibility. It's going to take some work to do. We certainly have thought of the opportunity and the possibility of doing that. Obviously, the optimum of the sports bar is to at least open up 50% capacity, like we were for just a short window of time in early July. And if we can do that, I think we'll be okay. I think we could survive, Paul, with 50% occupancy with sports on, with NFL football on. Our place is huge. I mean, the capacity of our place is around 404 people. And so 50% of that is 202. That's doable. We can survive a 202 capacity or 50% capacity with NFL football. Where it becomes real testy with the patios, we have two patios at our place, natural patios, is that you have just a finite number of seats, and that's about it. 10 tables between the two places, the two side-by-side patios that we have, outdoor seating in natural, away from all the elements and what have you. That really creates a problem, because then what happens, I think, potentially one of the big issues that I think we face, or in any other sports bar environment in the state, is that people want to come in. They don't want to just have a meal and watch 45 minutes of football. They want to watch their team play the entire game. And so it creates a real problem. I think it really creates a problem that who do you let in? Who do you not let in? And are people willing to wait outside in line to try to get into the place? And the probability of people coming in to watch football with restricted dining outdoors is probably going to be remote. And so that's where we're at with that idea, that notion. So I'm really hoping that the governor sees how great the numbers have come down in the state, and is going to be a little bit more lean. I mean, every state in the surrounding New Mexico is open, full bore, and our figures look pretty darn good. I think we were ranked in the coronavirus statistics this morning that I saw. We were probably 33rd out of the. We're certainly not number one with problems. We were 33rd down the line out of the 50, which I think has been great, because we were a lot higher than that at one point when we were going through the early stages of the pandemic. So I really feel that it's time for us to start opening up a little bit more and being able to provide people an experience that they're looking for. People have been, they've been sheltered at home. Some people have gone out, but it's just not the same, And I think that there's a lot of people wanting to just get out and do things. And I'm hoping that's going to be eased up here before Labor Day. And I think everybody, not only are we looking at that, but I also believe the schools are also looking at statistics of what's going to happen with the Gallup McKinley County schools, for example. I was talking to the superintendent last week, and it's all going to come down on what the governor is going to be releasing at our next initiatives drive for going forward, and how she wants to do things. So it's going to be challenging for us with football. It really is. College football on Saturday, the SEC, I think, is one of the few conferences left right now that's deciding on playing games. I don't think they've pulled anything out. Big Ten pulled out last week. Of course, Mountain West in our area here, Pac-12, everybody's in the same thing. And so that's going to hurt your Saturday business as far as pub business is concerned. And then Sunday, we're hoping to at least be able to have 50% and salvage our week with NFL football as best we possibly can. NFL football season and college football season is our best time of the year in our sports bar.
Sure.
You can watch the NBA playoffs all you want. You can watch Major League Baseball, the World Series. The sports that draw are going to be UFC, which we haven't been able to show, uh, NFL football, which we are hoping to show, and of course college football, because I mean we can show as many as 48 to 50 games a week with the capacity we have with receivers and TVs. We're showing that many games of college football, and when that's restricted down to nothing or maybe one or two games a week, and three maybe if you're lucky through the major networks, if you're open 50%, then you've really restricted your business tremendously.
Yeah, and just to clarify for those who may not be sports fans, and I know we're spending a fair amount of time here, but it really is an economic issue, and there's a lot of different aspects to all this. You have in-market sports games, especially NFL, for example, where the Cowboys, you pretty much get every Cowboy game in New Mexico, you get every Bronco game, but then if you're the fan of, say, the Pittsburgh Steelers or any number of other franchises around professional football, in order to see those games on a weekly basis, you have to go and purchase a very expensive package to do that through DirecTV, or hop on down to a sports bar like yours and or some other place that's closer to your house, and you have special equipment that helps you get all those games, and it's a great way to socialize, meet friends, meet folks just there watching the games, and spend a Sunday afternoon. And it's NFL games a 3-hour deal, and college, heck, those are close to 4-hour games. So talk about just you said you deal a lot with sports, and you've worked in high school football and whatnot. Talk about what that means, not just economically, but kind of culturally and socially to folks around the state of New Mexico, how important those college and high school sports are that are canceled now.
Well, we look back at this past year, the class of 2020. Our daughter, who's now at University of New Mexico, she was, she was a senior in Miyamura High School here in Gallup, and this was their year for softball. They had pretty much a whole senior team that went through all the developmental process of eighth grade, freshman, sophomore, junior, and into their senior year. In fact, I don't think they've ever won the Aztec tournament. I don't think they've ever beaten Aztec for the tournament, the preseason tournament. We went to that, and the Miyamura girls won that tournament. At that point, they were like 5-0, 7-0, and they were ready to just move on and be able to be competitive in their district. Well, of course, COVID hit, and there went the season at 7-0, and we could never realize and appreciate what the season was going to be like. That's just Miyamura. I look at the whole state. I look at the Clovises. I look at the Mayfields. I look at the Centennials. I look at Santa Fe and Farmington and Piedra Vista up there, and I look at Albuquerque with La Cueva and Highland and all the schools there, Cibola and the teams that are perennial powerhouses year after year. Youth football, for that matter. I mean, we talked about that before we got on the air today. Youth football. I started a youth football league here in 1996 with Tony Dorsett called TDFL. Last year, Paul, we had a tournament. We have tournaments every year here. We started it 10 years ago called the Four Corners Invitational. And we drew 58 teams here for a 2-day tournament playing on 7 100-yard turfed fields. And 58 teams from 5 different states in the western part of the United States, and we don't have that this year. There's going to be something missing. There's a void here, and I think that I feel bad for the kids that are going to be seniors. I felt bad for the kids that were seniors that we had to restrict their graduation. We had to do a lot of that stuff. That plays havoc with families. It plays havoc with the psyche. It plays havoc with society, and all of a sudden you have all these things, and all of a sudden you don't have them anymore, at least for now, because of the pandemic issue. It's going to affect a lot of families. A lot of people are just staunch supporters of their local high schools. A lot of people are staunch supporters of the Aggies and Lobos, and they're postponed until the spring. Sports is big. Sports is an escape for people that are tired of fighting the day-to-day grind of negativity and news and and politics and what have you. They get tired of that. And I think that they look at that as being an escape. And so I think it's going to affect people overall because of the things that they're accustomed to do, it's breaking a routine. It's going to affect a lot of people and how they perceive things, especially the young families that have kids in school.
No doubt about it. Now, kind of moving away from sports, but only taking one step away is the political side that has become so prevalent. In the NFL with kneeling and Colin Kaepernick, and you have in the wake of George Floyd, the NBA especially has become more political. Or just anecdotally, are you hearing people who would otherwise come to your sports bar for these kinds of events who are saying, no, I'm done with the NFL or the NBA or whoever, they've gotten too political, or people just willing to tolerate it, so hungry for sports? What, you're in the mix there more than I am. What do you hear?
Well, I break it up in multiple ways. Way one would be that a lot of people probably that are going to watch football that don't have any feelings one way or the other, they're still going to watch football. Then you're going to have, and frankly, we haven't had a season since baseball started up again, and since basketball started up again. We have not had a season to really evaluate what kind of response you're going to get. Of course, we haven't had a football season, but I'm a big sports fanatic. When I watch professional sports, if I want to watch the Lakers, I don't care about LeBron James's attitude about politics and everything. I watch him for the types of skills he brings to the court. And I think that when they use that stage to convey their political differences or political feelings, I just don't think it's really it's not a good place to present it. It's been my opinion. I watch others. You look on Facebook every day, people say, I'm done with the NFL, I'm done with this team, I'm done with that team. Now just about every team is doing it. So I'm not sure what that's going to mean as far as people showing up to watch games. I really don't know. A lot of people are very upset at the way things have gone. Of course, we have a huge socialistic movement going on in our society right now. And, it kind of, it's kind of a radical way to go, and I don't know when it's going to end, if it's ever going to end. But when I watch sports personally, I can answer on a personal level. I watch it because of the skills that they bring to the table. And LeBron's a terrific basketball player. If he feels that he should be politically involved through whatever platform he wishes to support, then he ought to be running for office and taking a different approach than to use the game of basketball or whatever to showcase his feelings.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very reasonable point, and I appreciate your perspective and honesty there. So you have run for office, and let's talk about kind of more of the political and policy and economic side of things. So Gallup is it's definitely a challenged area. It's got a lot of poverty there, but they had a city election, was it earlier this year, right in the midst of the pandemic, right?
Yeah, it was scheduled the first part of March, and then the pandemic really started coming into play a lot more seriously around the last part of March, first part of April. And so when I first started the notion of running for office, I think the early part of the campaign was great. Paul. And I don't know that I want to answer questions. I don't want to, before you ask the questions. Let's put it that way. But when I ran for office, the pandemic was just kind of in its infancy, although it had been talked about nationwide, internationally on the news and what have you. But when I ran office initially, and I say initially because there was a runoff for the mayor's campaign here. There were 5 of us running for the mayor's race, and unfortunately, we have one of those rules where you have to have 40% of the vote. Well, in Gallup, you have 12,000 registered voters, and 3,500 people showed up to vote. So that percentage is not very good. So to me, 40% of 3,500 people is not indicative of the rest of the 12,000 people, as far as I'm concerned. But I had 39.69% of the vote with 5 people running. and was 12 short of winning it outright, which was an unfortunate thing for me because the
12,
I'm sorry,
12 votes?
12 votes kept me from winning it outright.
Whew. That's
With 5
unbelievable.
people running. Yeah, that's unheard of to have it that close of winning with 5 people running. I had 300 and I want to say like 380 more votes than second place, and the runner up. And I think what happened to me is that a lot of the stay-at-home orders were starting to hit the marketplace from the state, from the governor's office. We even reached out to the Secretary of State's office about getting this thing postponed because of the confusion of people having stay at home or not, or going out to vote and what have you. Well, when we had the runoff, there were, I want to say 1,400 fewer voters that showed up for the runoff. And I lost by 41 votes. And my people probably, in retrospect, the people that I spoke to in the streets, their general attitude was, well, we thought you had aid. You know, we thought you had won so easily the first go round that we thought the second go round was going to be that way. And my response to that was, well, if everybody took that attitude, I wasn't going to get the votes that I had the first go round. So I think people were confused at the time. I'm not making excuses because, you know, it is what it is. It turned out to be the way it did. You know, have that fewer votes and people coming up and saying, you know, and then a lot of people that I talked to said, well, we voted the first time, so we didn't think we have to vote the second time. And I said, yeah, well, you have to start from scratch. It's 0-0 when you do the runoff. So I think there was a lot of complexity in the air, Paul, and it just wasn't meant to be. And so it was a tough one to swallow because I really had a terrific game plan for Gallup and the region here, i.e. the reservations, the Navajo and the Zuni nations, McKinley County. I had some great ideas of how to look forward into the next 4 years. And although now with fewer tax dollars and a lack of funding, I'm not sure how some of those things would have played out. But I think it could have been at least put in motion. But that's what happened.
Yeah, and definitely we need to talk about what happened, because one of the first major decisions, well, it was kind of during that whole transition, actually, when Gallup went into total lockdown during the pandemic. Now, you can answer this or not answer it as you feel, but would that have been your initiative as well to, you know, describe the lockdown and what it meant, but also was that something that you were inclined to do if you had been elected or not?
You know, I would have not been inclined to do that at all if I would have been elected. I think that what I would have done is I would have, because the lockdown didn't take place until the new mayor took office, and that we had about a month.
Because the mayor had to ask the governor to essentially shut your city down completely, more so than any other city in the state of New Mexico.
I'm not sure if that was 100%. You know, there's several people in the community I've spoken with, Paul, that have told me that a lot of that was initiated from the state, that they were pleading to try to get the lockdowns going in our community. I haven't gotten an official word of really how it was handled, but I know we went through 2 weeks of lockdown here, and it was tough. It was a ghost. Gallup was a ghost town, and not to mention the negative publicity we got nationwide. I had one of our former FCC attorneys from Virginia, who's retired now, emailed me one day and says, "Gosh, you know, Gallup's in the news. I'm not sure that this is the kind of publicity you guys are looking for, because we're right in the major thoroughfare of I-40, and it's a natural spot for people to stop for dining, lodging, and shopping, and gassing up, and what have you, between going west or going east." And I think it really hurt us. I think it hurt us in so many ways. I think that the problem was that I think the way I would have handled it, I know for certain the way I would have handled it, I would have gotten a host of business partners within the community, people in somebody from the hospital, business people in retail, got them together in a round table and really discuss the matter a little bit more openly than to make a decision on my own. although I was probably not inclined to shut down the community. I just don't think it was the right thing to do. And then it got renewed again. It was like another week after the first week, and it created a lot of problems. The Navajo Nation, great people. Most of my business at Sammy C's evolves from the Navajo Nation and the Zuni Nation. That's our business. It's not the local people; it's the reservation people, and those folks rely on Gallup for goods and services. Those folks rely on Gallup to do laundry. Those folks rely on Gallup as their big shopping hub, and to get things done here. And when they're shut out, it's like being shut in right now. People want to go out and do things. They want to come to Gallup. They want to come in and get a different surrounding. They want to go out to have dinner. They want to go out and do grocery shopping. They want to go out and buy clothes. They want to do this. When they're shut down, literally shut down, it really puts a bind on a lot of things. And I think that what led to my thinking on not really being inclined to shut down the community, Paul, I really felt that all along the way, of course, I'm always glued to find out what the statistics are and what have you. We're getting statistics from the state, we're getting statistics from certain people. As you know, and then what I was picking up along the way, that a lot of figures were doctored. A lot of figures were doctored because of political leveraging, financial leveraging from the federal government. You have a COVID positive case comes up, it equates to X number of dollars. You have a death that's COVID related or non-COVID related that's labeled as COVID related, which I've heard a lot about here. That is equivalent to X number of thousands of dollars going to a financial, not a financial, but a health institution or government or whatever. When you start seeing things like that pop up, and you don't know for sure if you're getting the real facts, that's where I think you need to get a host of people involved in making a decision of that magnitude. I think it's beyond what one person can do, and I really felt that I would have relied on the several people within the community in a circle, including the Navajo Nation, to make decisions of that sort.
Yeah, now it's definitely the case that Navajo Reservation had a lot of issues, especially early on with the outbreak and the coronavirus. And then as time went on, the idea was for Gallup to be shut down because all those folks coming into town, shopping, doing everything that they would do was causing people to spread the virus. And that's the theory. Any idea why? Farmington's another big, town where a lot of Navajo tend to go off reservation. Do you think that Gallup was treated unfairly relative to Farmington? Is that something that made sense to you, or how's that work out in your head?
Well, I talked to several business owners in Farmington that, from time to time while all this stuff was going on, and many of them told me that you guys think you have another lockdown this weekend, because it really gave us a little bit of a boost. You have to remember, Farmington is going through some economic issues with oil and gas up in that area. Of course, everything is centered around the Permian Basin in the Carlsbad area with oil and gas. So the fields in Farmington's been having some economic issues of their own. And when you shut down Gallup and allow Farmington to be open, of course, people still need a place to go. So that's where they go, and our loss and their gain. And so, yeah, I think a lot of them felt that we gave them a boost over that period of time.
Yeah, it seems odd that one would be shut down and the other wasn't considered for that. Well, you mentioned
Paul, if I may make another comment too. The thing with the pandemic is a nationwide, it's a worldwide problem. The pandemic is not a Navajo virus by any stretch of the imagination. I think sometimes people on the reservation get labeled wrongfully, and I don't think that that's the right way to do it. And I think that I want to clarify that, because I think they've done a remarkable job. I think President Nez and Vice President Leiser have done a remarkable job in keeping those numbers in check. And as things get better, they ease up the weekend curfew. they have a curfew, believe it or not, on the reservation, and that's to keep people more on the reservation than they are, going out and doing things. But they pay close attention to that, and they allow people to get out and meander around and do the things that they need to do for their families. But it's not anything that originates from the reservation. It's just the way it is. It's a societal issue that faces everybody in this country and everybody worldwide.
No doubt. And yeah, if I was to imply that one particular group or any group had a special proclivity or had some specific reason, I think there are cultural and socioeconomic reasons why they were hit so hard on the Navajo reservation, but it certainly wasn't anything that they could have stopped or tried to do a better job of. It was a very, very difficult situation for sure. So you mentioned
at the time, CNN was running some stories on Gallup and the shutdowns and the lockdowns and what have you that we had going on here. And the mayor, and I think that's what Frank, our former FCC attorney, I think that's what he was alluding to, is that that there was a lockdown. And the way it was perceived nationwide on CNN is by our mayor was on that. The way it was perceived nationally was that we had to do a lockdown because we don't want people coming in here and getting infected by people from within our community and within McKinley County, and then take it back to their communities and infect people out there. That was a real unfair statement for our community. Gallup was not that way at all. In fact, we had the overflow of hospitalization over at Miyamura High School that cost the federal government tons of money, and very few people use that facility. And I lived it here.
sure.
I don't want to discount that we don't have a COVID-19 issue. I don't want to discount the idea that we had a pandemic problem, but I lived it. My family lived it, and you know what, Paul, yeah, it's a problem, but I think it's so overstated in so many aspects of life. COVID-19, I think, was overstated, and a lot of it, of course, a lot of the notion is that it's politically motivated, and I totally get that. And so I feel that a lot of that stuff was overstated. Stats were not really checked. I just don't know. I think there's a lot of issues there, and that really gave us a black eye when you look at the kind of media that we were getting nationwide. And I think it was poorly handled.
Sure. No, I appreciate that, and thanks for clarifying all that. Now, we talked about Farmington and their challenges and the contrast with them in terms of how they were impacted, but moving more into nitty-gritty economic stuff. Of course, they are, in addition to low natural gas prices, dealing with the shutdown of a coal-fired power plant up there. And Gallup, like I discussed at the outset, Gallup has its own economic challenges, and a couple of different big closings in your area of the state are going to be impacting you all out there. One of them is the closing of a different coal-fired power plant. That's the Escalante plant. And the other is the Marathon refining facility. Now, can you speak to the kind of broader impact those have had on your community and what the closings are going to mean to Gallup moving forward?
Well, it's just added lost jobs to the community. It's not something that's just happening for the first time now here, Paul. I look back at the history of Gallup in McKinley County. Back 20 years, 30 years. It all started back in the days of United Nuclear Corporation, Carbon Coal. From that went to the Pittsburgh and Midway Coal Mining Company on the reservation. From there, El Paso Natural Gas shut down. In fact, they sold their plant to Marathon. They shut down because of a difference of opinion and annexation of that industry from city property. Then comes Marathon. Then comes the Escalante power plant. And then somewhere along the way, BNSF changes their whole complexion to save costs or cut costs of where they're going to pick up teams to take the train and where they're going to drop off teams. They eliminate the caboose. They didn't need quite as many people. So people that were living in Gallup, where they were loading up on staffs on the trains here, because Gallup was one of the natural spots for bringing the crews in. A lot of these people moved on to Los Lunas and Belen, or on the other side to Winslow and Flagstaff. BIA offices, a lot of the BIA offices closed here, went on, so many of them went on into Albuquerque. Some of them went into Phoenix. We've had, I mean, this is a long list.
Yep.
We've gone through a list of this, Paul, with no replenishment. And I'm appalled at the fact that we haven't really done a very good job with economic development here and trying to get out and showcase with organizations, groups that can come here. Right to work certainly would have helped a lot, I think, because it would get industry here in the state that we ordinarily don't have and get people off unemployment and get them employed in good sustaining jobs. It's a huge thing, so we add another 200 jobs from Marathon. You had jobs from Escalante, which I think most of those people come out of the Grants area anyway, because it's about 47 miles east of Gallup. So you go to, a lot of them benefit Grants more than they do Gallup. But the point is still have some that come out of Gallup, Thoreau, and those places in McKinley County.
They're still paying property.
I don't know the answer. What's that?
Those facilities still pay property and GRT, even if the workers aren't paying, as much GRT in your area. So that I know the property tax is a big deal, as are the GRTs that are generated on those places.
Of course.
So, what's the way forward? I know if you were the mayor now, you'd be in a lot of challenges that the area is facing. Is it just tied to the legislature in Santa Fe making better decisions for the state, and that the rising tide theoretically lifts all boats? I mean, we have all 112 of those folks in theory are up this year. It's the main lever we have to either approve or disapprove of what the governor's done, as well as the economic situation. And I think there's a lot to be desired there, although it still hasn't shaken out in the wash in terms of exactly what those impacts will be. But Gallup's certainly an area that needs a break these days.
Well, we do, we truly do. And the Marathon problem with them shutting down, or even Escalante for that matter, it's this whole thing, the notion of going green statewide. How are we going to make up 39% of the state budget when most of that money comes from oil and gas? That's my question. And that's a state issue. And you don't have right to work. How are you going to make that up? I mean, these people in the state, New Mexicans, are overtaxed badly as it is. How much more tax would you expect a welfare state to give? And I mean, I have to look at those types of things. One of the things that I would have done, and I addressed this during the campaign, was to, as a community, Gallup's about 20,000 strong, very little growth, very, plus or minus, it stays at about 20,000 a year here. Be interesting to see what happens when the census comes out, if everybody responds. I think the state's 50th and counting right now, which is unfortunate, but everything's been COVID oriented. But you look at the numbers, 20,000 people here. My idea of trying to get Gallup and McKinley County and the Navajo Nation and Zuni marketed a lot differently than what we have right now. So I think Gallup in this area, everybody's been doing things privately. The city's been doing their thing. The county's been doing their thing. Although some city and county work has overlapped. The reservation does their thing. Zuni does their thing. So we literally promote and market ourselves as 20,000 people. My vision was to create a regional superpower where you could put where Gallup, McKinley County, the Navajo Nation, the Zuni Nation collectively work together. And when you go and start talking to industry, now all of a sudden you go in with 400,000 people strong within your own region that can make a huge difference, as opposed to 20,000 people, as opposed to 10,000 people, as opposed to maybe 68,000 people in McKinley County. You have to take a different approach at things, and you have to take a different approach where you can get everybody to work together, and it's going to benefit everybody. The Navajo Nation will benefit from it. The Zuni Nation will benefit from it. Gallup would benefit, and McKinley County would benefit. It's a matter of taking a different approach at improving economic development in the community and in the area, the region becoming a super region. And I really feel that could have very, very well helped us in marketing our area probably better. My brother Dario over the years has talked about, you have to be your own caseworker. And I really believe when you're in Gallup and McKinley County in this part of the state, you truly have to be your own caseworker. Santa Fe is not going to do it for you. Albuquerque is not going to do it for you. Las Cruces is not going to do it for you. It's the Rio Grande corridor, and we put ourselves in the same kind of light as Deming, Clovis on the other side, some of those other areas. You have to be your own caseworker and try to make your own fun and try to create your own economics. And I really feel, Paul, that is something I think we could have done. It's never been tried before. And everybody says, well, we can't get everybody along to sit on the table. You know what? At some point you have to sit down as men, as women, as leaders of the community, as legislators, and say, look, we need to give this a shot and try to get everybody on board. You got to sell it first. And the way you sell it is to get everybody on board and potentially talk about what the future could hold when you become a regional powerhouse, as opposed to a community of 20,000, a community of 10,000. Nobody's going to want to talk to you because there's gobs of 20,000 people, populated communities that are trying to vie for the same thing that Gallup is doing. But when you walk in with 300, 400,000 people on the platter and improve your workforce potential that much, there's no question in my mind that your number game now, it elevates you to a whole different level.
No doubt about it. Well, thank you very much for your time today, Sammy. And why don't you give a quick plug for your restaurant and sports bar there in Gallup? I hope sincerely that the governor is willing to open up indoor dining at least in time for NFL season, because I know that'll make a big difference for you and for a lot of other of those kinds of sports bars and restaurants around the state. And heck, I want to see my beloved Steelers playing football indoors and not have to try to buy the Sunday ticket or some other way to watch them. So if people are in Gallup, I urge you, say without equivocation, you got to get yourself to Sammy C's, even if it's not something you're a big sports fan or anything. It's just a great place, great food, all that good stuff. So plug the restaurant.
All right, buddy, I will. Thank you so much for the opportunity. We're located right in the heart of downtown Gallup, 1 block south of US Highway 66. It's on Cole Avenue, the main drag right through the downtown area. We're between 1st and 2nd Street. We're at 107 West Cole to be exact. And we're open at 12 noon daily. We open until 8 p.m. Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday, we have a cigar club that comes into our place. They eat and then they have their cigars and scotch. They go till 9 o'clock. Thursday, Friday, we go till 8. Saturday till 8. And Sunday, we go till about 6 p.m., but we open at 12 noon daily. We invite everybody to come out. We have a full menu service out in front in our natural patios, 10 tables there to serve. Wear your masks. We exercise the social distancing initiatives. Sign in when you come in. You have to do that through that tracing issue from the state request. And we have full pub service when you eat food. So, we encourage you to come by and see us here in Gallup and come out and see us here in our community. Our community is probably better off than most people think it is. But of course, economically with the downsizing of jobs with Marathon and Escalante and some of these other places, we're going to try to pick up the pieces and go forward in a positive way. And hopefully we'll be able to turn the corner at some point and get back going upwards.
All righty. Well, thank you very much for your time again. And we'll talk again soon. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much, pal. Have a great one and continued success to you. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks for listening to this week's show. Make sure to get the latest edition of Tipping Point New Mexico by subscribing at Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. You can post or comment on this and other episodes on Facebook and Twitter and tell Google Home to play Tipping Point New Mexico. Thanks to Path 3 Marketing for producing this show.